Hey, want to listen to some tunes?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Luke Carruthers.
And I'm Ray Blakely.
And yes, your eyes and ears do not deceive you. We're finally talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, a film that's, God, like 4 years in the like 5 years in the making. If we want to go back to like when it started, being filmed after Batman v Superman in 2016.
Mad.
Before we get into our in-depth thoughts on this, it's definitely essential to know the story of what built up to this. Ray, I'm assuming you know the story of like how the Zack Snyder's Justice League came to be.
Didn't he quit production halfway through? There was some problems going on in his life, and he cut off where he was working in it, and he put together all the content that he had made in the time that he spent working on it, and therefore the Snyder Cut was produced. Am I right?
Yeah. You got like the basic gist of it right. So
a brief part about it, but not really. I never looked too deep into it, so I'm not really sure on the details of it.
Well, the story of like how it came to be itself is definitely a very good starting point for this. So, after the mixed response that came from Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder basically had like this plan to release 2 Justice League films. But after the sort of mixed response to Batman v Superman, Warner Brothers decided to play it safe and only really gave him permission to do 1.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, well, with an executive just sort of looking over his work to make sure he didn't go to make sure like he didn't make any decisions that they thought like fans would disagree with. Basically, really trying to play it safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, about partway to production, when they'd got all the stuff that they needed filmed, that was when like a family tragedy happened.
Yeah, I heard all about that. That's what I thought was the main like thing that kicked off the whole downfall of the production. But yeah, continue so I know more.
Yeah. So after that, he stepped down from production to be with his family. In a very dark time. Warner Brothers, instead of delaying the film, wanted to push forward so the executives could keep their Christmas bonuses. Essentially. So they brought in Joss Whedon, the guy who directed the first 2 Avengers films. And from what I understand of when you bring in a new director, apparently it's within law that they have to have shot with about 75% of the original film. So that's mostly due to why they allowed Joss Whedon to shoot his shots. Basically to sort of change the whole aspect of what Zack Snyder's Justice League was going to be.
Yeah.
So when the film came out in 2017, it made its money back, but it didn't make as much money as Warner Brothers had hoped. So it was a bit of a flop.
Oh, I see. I never watched the original one. I kind of went into this one blind, but from what I read about it, I wouldn't even bother going and watching the original one. This is just so much better.
I've seen like clips of like the Joss Whedon version, just like little snippets of it. It looks like bloody terrible.
Yeah, I could not be bothered. No, I think this one, it was amazing, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah. So after that whole so after that whole thing happened, that obviously like Zack Snyder's dream had of like releasing that Justice League film had been shattered, and replaced with something that wasn't really that good. In fact, it was Zack Snyder's wife, along with his friend Christopher Nolan. They both went to see the 2017 film, and having seen it, they both told him not to watch it.
Oh, guess that says a lot about it then.
Yeah, from which the hashtag release the Snyder Cut started, and it got about as popular as a hashtag would get on Twitter, but Warner Brothers still wasn't responding. So a group of people got together and they made a charity page that both raised awareness of the Snyder Cut's existence as well as raised awareness of suicide prevention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
There was also there was a group of people that strapped like a banner to the back of their plane and flew around the executive building of Warner Brothers.
That's class.
Yeah, there was some people that bought ownership of a billboard in Times Square, and they put on like release the Snyder Cut.
I love the dedication.
Yeah, it got to a point where after enough time had passed, the actors got involved and joined the cause as well.
Oh,
And even admitted to filming with Joss Whedon was apparently like incredibly tough. Ray Fisher, the guy who played Cyborg, specifically said he recalls being bullied on set by Joss.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah.
It's things like that would make me even more not want to watch the original, just knowing that they had such a bad time doing it. It would make it really uncomfortable viewing. I think knowing that now makes the Snyder Cut even better.
Yeah, and it all came to an end when, in 2020, Zack Snyder hosted a live watch along party for Man of Steel with Henry Cavill.
Right.
Where fans got to like ask him questions, and the big question that was in everybody's mind was, where's the Snyder Cut? And he said he couldn't specifically like say where it was, but he said he could show them something. And he turned his camera and he turned his face camera around, and right there on his big home cinema screen was a poster for Zack Snyder's Justice League 2021.
Nice. Very nice.
And that's essentially he has basically been working on that film. With visual effects artists for the past few months leading up to this, and has accepted that in order to get his true vision across, he's accepted not getting paid anything.
Right? Oh my goodness.
An absolute mad lad.
Yeah, an absolute mad lad. I mean, that's dedication, and definitely shows in the film. Like,
yeah,
I loved the film, but I love it even more now, knowing all this.
Yeah, which. Which, funnily enough, a director's cut of a DC film. This isn't the first time this has happened with DC.
Right.
Yeah, the original like Christopher Reeve Superman films. Superman 2 was supposed to be directed by a guy called Richard Donner. But he got fired from set for some reason and got replaced by some guy called Richard Lester. And after a few years, there was kind of like a fan gathering. Probably not as big as the one we've got right now, but there was a lot of fans asking, as that hashtag release the Donner Cut. So they got Richard Donner involved. They got a bunch of his original stuff that he filmed for Superman 2. It was covered in fluid, so they had to bake the film clips to dry them off.
Oh God.
And yeah, that's basically it. In 2006 they released a 1980s Superman film that was they released it both as to meet like fan requests, as a lot of people wanted it, and also as a tribute to Christopher Reeve because he died around that time.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah. I love hearing like little backstories of movies like that. It makes watching them even better. That's lovely.
Yeah, but as for the film itself, because this go up on YouTube, I can say this film was fucking fantastic.
Oh, this is going on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was fucking class. I didn't know what we were doing this time, so I was kind of dodgy. Like, whenever we record these for the podcast, I always think keep it down, like don't swear. But now I can go, so it's fine. It just brings up the energy so much more. Like I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
There's no, but seriously, if we're talking about, I thought that this film was. It was real. It was absolutely brilliant. Like probably. It definitely wasn't my favorite, but it didn't feel like it was trying to be my favorite.
Yeah,
Because my favorites are still Aquaman and Shazam.
Mm.
But I still hold this on the same level as I do Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, which are really fucking high.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I actually enjoyed Aquaman in this film more than I did in his own film. And that says a lot because I actually watched Aquaman again for the first time since I saw it in cinema. And
I watched it yesterday.
Fair enough. I watched it when it came out and I loved it then, but the only reason I loved it was because all I remembered about it was the visual effects. And I thought, oh yeah, it looked really good. Like, that's a class movie. I watched it again recently and I was like, holy shit, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. I thought it was terrible. I didn't like
Really?
it. And then I didn't like it at all. So going into this film, I was like, oh no, more Aquaman. I can't stand this. I felt the same about Superman as well. And it's like, oh, more Superman. But I really enjoyed Aquaman in this. I thought he was class in it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the for what is like technically, like a sort of first appearance like of Aquaman, Jason Momoa carries a whole different kind of energy for him.
Definitely. And I think the same thing happened with Wonder Woman as well. I really enjoyed her in this. Like, I love this character so much more now. I have a totally new appreciation for Wonder Woman now. This movie just made everything 10 times better, and now I'm excited about all these characters that I didn't like in their own standalone films. I don't know how he did it, but he's done it. I'm impressed.
Just looking at it with like Jeff Goldblum memes, like, you did it, you son of a bitch, you did it.
Yep, that's how I feel.
So, starting from the beginning, what is essentially the previously on Batman v Superman scene.
Yeah.
The sort of like recapping everything that happened. Yeah, I love that all of like Zack Snyder's interconnected films, like they have like different perspectives on like previous like his previous films. Like we had in Batman v Superman, we had Batman's perspective on the world engine.
Yeah.
And then in this, we get like people's different perspective of when Superman died, and his scream was like carrying a sort of like shockwave, like across the planet, which kind of makes sense. Like a guy that powerful screaming that loud would probably carry a shockwave that travels across the globe.
Yeah, and for the sheer impact of it, I think it really did add to because if you watch that movie on its own, you get all the impact of Batman vs Superman there and then. But to try to get the audience to remember how impactful that was, I think they did a really good job because you kind of forget you're not really immersed in it. But to start off a film where you're right back in that mindset of, whoa, this is like really like stressful and a really sad moment, I think to kind of bring that all back in one go was really impressive.
Yeah, I wonder what it was like for like everybody else, like not in Metropolis or Gotham to hear that scream, because obviously they hear it and they think, oh no, like Superman's like dead, but you hear it like travel all the way to England, we just think, what the fuck was that? we're just sort of sat at home doing our own thing.
You think someone's ran past your house really, really quickly? Yeah. I really enjoyed the bit in London for one part and one part only. The fact that whenever the guys are going into I don't know, was it like a bank or embassy or a museum or something? Can't remember what it was. And they were going in.
It was a court, I think it was a courthouse.
Ah, right. And they were going in, they were shooting everybody, and one of them goes, no, mate, don't shoot. But in that moment, all you could think of was, nah, mate, don't shoot. Like, it was so British. He could have been like, no, stop. Like, no, don't shoot. He was like, no, mate, don't shoot.
It's like, please, mate, spare me.
It was just so British. I thought it was so comical. I loved it.
Which, talking about like that scene specifically, it's essentially when I had no idea what they were called, like the group of people that invaded. I just called it like the Kingsmen doing like a Dark Knight bank heist or something.
Kingsman doing Dark Knight. That would be something. That was something. Yeah, they're like a small group of terrorists, weren't they? Who were trying to like bring the country back to like 1,000 years ago, trying to like get rid of the systems and stuff. I thought they were interesting. I really liked it how it kind of reintroduced Diana and kind of got the whole Wonder Woman thing going. And I really liked the bit at the end with like the little girl, and she was like, "You can be whatever you want to be." Because if that was around when I was a kid and I was reading all these comics and I was watching all these like superhero, well, all the cartoons back then and stuff, to see a female character be like that, I would have been like, "Oh my god, I can do this, I can do that." Like I would be really, really like engaged with it and really involved.
I'll be honest.
Now, it's really, really important, and I was very, very happy they included that little part.
I'll be honest. That scene where like Wonder Woman is like talking to the little girl, that nearly made my sister cry.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, because like what I said about Wonder Woman movie back when we talked about it, I was really happy that we finally had a really good, strong, powerful female character, because they haven't been around for that long and we haven't had big female superheroes for that long. So like personally, just for me, if I had had that when I was that child's age, I would have cried. Like I would have been so happy to see that. But for that to come out now, I'm so happy that people have finally realized that we need that. And I was very proud and very happy of that moment.
Which is what superheroes are supposed to do. They're meant to inspire.
I loved it. I thought it was really sweet. And I think that as well set up the movie where I did get to love Diana's character a lot more, and that was basically the starting point.
Yeah. Like specifically like the scene for which is like fighting those guys, and she's like deflecting bullet after bullet with her with her, we'll call them gauntlets, but yeah, the scene where she was like deflecting like bullet after bullet kind of it's kind of showing that she's like sort of like grown from experience of not just like trying to fend off bullets with her shield, but has learned how specifically to defend bullet after bullet with her gauntlets.
Yeah, I like that progression of her character as well, where in the start of her film, you saw that the Amazons didn't have any clue about what guns and stuff were, and they were getting just absolutely mowed down left, right, and center. But in this, you see her really adapt to this kind of, like human technology, and to see that, I think it was good character progression.
Not to mention, so funny actually sort of happened when I was watching that film when I was watching the film with my sister. The scene where she first breaks in, then you hear that sort of tribal music, the tribal singing. As I remember when that happened, I said to my sister, I was like, I kind of prefer like the tribal music to like a constant guitar theme, and then right at that moment.
I swear that music just stalks me throughout the movie, because sometimes I'll pick up on the other bits of the soundtrack, but I swear every time that plays, it's just keyed into my brain. And then the tribal like singing as well was another constant, and every time it showed up, I was like, oh, not again, for God's sake. I swear her music is it's good the first couple of times, and it just gets so damn obnoxious.
Yeah, it does kind of.
It grates on you. It's a pain in the ass.
Seeing as we were talking about, a little bit about Aquaman before, the scene when Bruce goes out into that sort of old village and like tries to find him.
Mm-hmm. I love that Bruce's tactic is just to buy everything. Like he just gets everything he wants with money, and I think that's what I love about him.
I mean, that's what he states like later on. He says, when the Flash asks what's his superpower, and he says, "I'm rich." Rich,
yeah. I have that line written down because I love it so much. I feel like my whole thing is, I have it here somewhere. Yeah, my favorite characters in each of the universes, so DC and Marvel, are just the rich weirdos. Because they are so inherently bad, because money is inherently bad. So you see Iron Man bad and Batman bad in different ways with their money, except one just decides to wear metal and one chose spandex. Or Lycra, whatever you want to go for. But I just feel like, I just love how, I don't know, it's just so cheeky to be that powerful with money. I love their vibe. I think they're wonderful.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's good to see that Ben Affleck like carried the same sort of Bruce Wayne energy that he had in Batman v Superman because he was the best part of the last film.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think again he was the best part of this film for me as well. I'll never not love Batman. I think he was wonderful in all of them.
You should have seen like the smile on my face seeing his like back and forth banter with him and Alfred.
Alfred was on top form in this film. I love Alfred. And the part where he says, "This is Alfred, I work for him." I love that part.
Yeah. That is like, I'll go make the tea, not sure we'll have enough cups.
It perfectly sums them up, and I think it's such a sweet little character dynamic. I loved it.
Following like both of those scenes comes the reveal of the big bad. The whole point of his appearance is that the mother boxes have been kind of shaken by the death of Superman. That's what's caused them to be sort of exposed, and that's what triggers the appearance of Steppenwolf. And given that I have an idea of, given that I've like. You said that you like never saw like the Joss Whedon version.
No.
Given that I saw his design in that, looking at his design now, he looks so much more intimidating.
Nice. I'm so glad I hadn't seen the other ones. I feel like I'd just be disappointed. So I'm glad I went into this completely blind, not knowing what the other one, because that one just doesn't exist to me anymore. I don't think about it. This is the one and only. This is the only Justice League film. And that's it. It kind of makes you think, like looking back on that with like all like the dumb decisions that they made. Usually, like before the Snyder Cut existed, I'd usually sort of like laugh at the Joss Whedon version and say like, how did they think that like this was okay to release in cinema because it looks like a pre-rendered PlayStation 3 game. but honestly, like looking at it now. With the Snyder Cut out now, it kind of makes me angry, just sort of thinking like, how dare they try and cut Zack's work out of this? Yeah, how dare they try and deprive the world of this masterpiece? If he hadn't have released this, we would have been so deprived of this amazing film, and that would have been an absolute tragedy.
Yeah,
that'd be so sad. We're talking about the whole thing with the mother boxes. The mother box concept to me, like the fact that they are these boxes, they are these little cubes that everybody wants, just gave me vibes of the Allspark from Transformers.
Yeah.
That's all I thought the whole time. Every time I saw a mother box, I thought, it's Allspark from Transformers.
Which probably has like a more like a sort of let me speak properly. Which probably the mother boxes have more of an impact than the Allspark did, considering
Allspark is very important. If you watch the original cartoons, Allspark is very, very important.
Oh, you talk about the cartoon. Oh, I thought. Was the Allspark cartoons thing? I always thought it was a Michael Bay thing.
No, they had it in the original source material, and then they did like a spin-off from the original cartoon series. They did like it wasn't as popular, but they brought some of that material into it because Allspark already existed before he created the films.
Oh, I thought it was only a Michael Bay thing. That's what I thought you were comparing it to.
But yeah, the Allspark matters, and every time I saw the mother boxes, I just thought of those. But yeah, they're definitely important.
Which, like the absolute assault that Steppenwolf brings to the Amazonians, sort of like mowing them down one by one without even like breaking a sweat.
Yeah,
absolutely brutal.
Yeah. Oh, it was so sad as well. Like whenever the girl got crushed by the horse, or when the whole like temple fell into the sea, those were like really gripping moments.
Yeah,
it was really, really sad. Even to start out with, I thought, oh God, this movie is gonna go somewhere I don't want to go because I'm sad already. I don't want to get into this and be even more sad.
And I'm really glad that they didn't go in the cliche route in sort of like dialogue. They sort of like let the scene sort of play out it is, and let the horror of Steppenwolf jumping out of the ocean like be the fear that he's back. They don't go for the cliche of like, did we kill him? No, we just made him angry.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, I love the scene where he's got like a bunch of arrows in his chest. He looks over the hills to see the mother box being dragged away from him, and he just flexes his chest, and that enough makes the arrows fall out of his chest.
Yeah, he was really intimidating. He was like, I didn't know about the other film. I didn't know anything about the about Darkseid or anything like that. So I thought that he was going to be the main villain, and him as the main villain, I think would have been enough. Like I was already gripped, absolutely involved with it. I thought that this guy is scary. This guy's gonna fuck shit up. This guy's gonna do an absolute job on the Justice League. It's gonna be class. But then to bring something even more powerful into it, I thought that's mad. Like they're going a whole other route with this. It's gonna be insane. And I think that in itself really, really builds hype in the audience. And I think it was a very, very good point to include.
Yeah. Which I think the sort of like presence of Darkseid and what was the other name? I think it was D-Sad. I think it was. I think it was called. I think it was the presence of them that actually gave Steppenwolf a character in this. Because in the 2017 one, all you basically saw was an unused Skyrim skin, sort of gathering the mother boxes to do evil things.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, he's doing it because he's sort of like a soldier to Darkseid that's sort of fallen from grace and trying to redeem himself so he can come home.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel bad for the guy.
You do, yeah. I really like the characterization where they kind of built him up. I thought that was quite cute, even for a villain. Another part of the villains that I really liked was the parademons. I thought their design was actually really cool. And the one that broke into the labs and the guy had drawn up like the police sketch. He didn't draw a parademon. That guy just drew Mothman. Every time I saw the sketch, they were like, "We're looking for this creature," and I was like, "No, you're looking for Mothman."
you're looking for Mothman there. Like yeah. the guy that discovered the parademon in the lab. I only remember the character's name, like Howard, because right before that happened, like me and my sister were sort of like playing a joke about how he's like his name was mentioned once, and she was like his name was mentioned once, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I love Howard, best character in this film." And then when he like walked into the lab to discover the parademon, we were both like, "No, not Howard."
Howard was a top lad. Speaking of the other like side characters that stood out to me, when there's the bit about Aquaman and he's talking to Volko, I had another moment, the same moment I had whenever we watched, guess what, John Wick. Whenever we watched that and I had the Green Goblin moment, I had another moment of going, oh my god, it's Green Goblin. I just can't see that man in any other role, and I just think, oh my god, it's the Green Goblin.
I take it you also like saw that when you rewatched the Aquaman film as well.
Yeah, just very angrily and upset that I didn't enjoy it as much the second time. But yeah, Green Goblin makes up for it.
Which, speaking of the Aquaman related characters, I feel like the only the only issue, like major issue that I have with this is kind of like is the same issue that I have with Aquaman, and that's the presence of Amber Heard.
Oh yeah, same. That was not nice.
Yeah. like this did her appearance did not age well at all.
It's definitely a big stain on the films, and it's definitely a low note in any other film that she's in.
It's like the character is fine. Like, I don't have any problems with the character. It's just it's just the actor herself.
Yeah.
The same way that you look at somewhat like, I don't know, Superman Returns, and you don't have a problem with the character Lex Luthor. You have a problem with the fact that it's played by Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember, because like this film was like 4 hours long. Really hard to remember like the order of like of events that happen. So after he gets the first mother box, he goes to a power plant in Russia, which me and my sister, while watching this, we first thought was Chernobyl.
Oh my God. Fair enough.
And that's basically where he sets up like the first of the mother boxes before like going to find the other two. Then then we go to, I think it's the introduction to the Flash.
Yeah. But
yeah, the introduction to the Flash was, I don't really know what to think about it.
I thought it was funny. I was really entertained by it. I think it set up a very good, like, quirky, entertaining character. I thought it was quite sweet. I will say that just one point that I had before that, whenever he found the first mother box, they had like the flashback to the first fight whenever Darkseid had first come to Earth.
Yeah.
The fight with all the races and all the different defenders of the Earth, it looked more like I was playing a Warhammer campaign than a superhero film, because they had all these like different races and they would be the different factions in Warhammer. I felt like I was more or less playing a campaign, seeing all these guys fight each other than, watching a superhero film. But
They
maybe
had a
that's
cool looking Ares, and they didn't need David Thewlis.
yeah, they didn't need ugly Ares. Yeah, but yeah, back to your man. What's he called? It's the Flash. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the Flash. I thought it was very, very good.
Yeah, the introduction to him, like it was sweet seeing him like go out of his way to save Iris. I think it was the name of the character. But I found it kind of weird how he just. I don't know whether to find it weird or cute the way that he sort of like just sort of stood there and kind of like sort of stroked her hair.
Yeah, to be fair, that was a little bit creepy. I thought he was so sweet though. I thought the little bit with the dogs and stuff was quite adorable. But yeah, I didn't notice that the first time, but looking back on it, if he did just stand there and stroke his hair, that's quite creepy.
I'll definitely say for films that are for a film series, to come from Zack Snyder, which are often played as like too dark or not funny. I feel like Ezra Miller as the Flash is definitely like a good what's the word, contrast.
Yeah, I love the DC films and the comics for how dark they are. That's what I love
Yeah,
about them. And to have that little bit of mixture in there, I thought was really, really nice. Because
yeah.
normally I don't really like funny superhero stuff, but did it very well where it wasn't annoying. I think that was the main thing for me.
Yeah, that's that's the main reason as to like why I love Marvel films like Thor Ragnarok. It's because they managed to like they managed to tell jokes in there. They managed to make a funny film, but it doesn't become like too they don't go too over the top with it.
Yeah. Mm.
Although although thinking about it, and I think it might be because I've been in the streak of watching a bunch of these DC films. A lot of people say that DC is kind of like too dark. I saw like this one random clip from Avengers: Infinity War. I
Mhm.
think I think sometimes Marvel is sometimes a bit too funny.
Really?
Yeah, it's not that the jokes don't. It's not that the jokes don't work. Like the jokes
Yeah.
work, but it kind of takes you out of the dramatic tension of the moment.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's not much immersion or real danger or threat because you have this like, oh, the big bad guy, but they're all over here cracking jokes about it, and I think it does kind of take away from the threat of it. But I like the contrast between the two universes because it's not really, oh, if you want to have a funny and dark superhero, here it is. It's more, if you want one, go over here, they do it right. If you want the other one, go over there, they do it right. I think it's a good balance because you can pick whatever one you want to watch instead of trying to like mix it up and try and do both, and then it gets a bit stretched and a bit difficult, and I think it's kind of hard to balance it. But I think this movie definitely balanced it quite
Yeah.
well.
It's perfectly balanced as all things should be.
Yes.
I think my
Puns.
favorite line, or it was both my favorite line and my sister's favorite line to come from the Flash, was when he was recruited by Bruce. It was like stop right there, I'm in. Bruce was like, you are, and he was like, yeah, I need friends.
Yeah. Me, whenever we're told we're going back to in-person classes in uni, I'm in. I need friends.
I need friends. You just have that like your uni badge.
Yeah.
You just have like your name, your student number, and then the quote of like I need friends.
Yeah. That's more me flying back to England at the end of the month. I need to go back. I need friends. Yeah.
Speaking of, we've talked about a bunch of the characters so far.
Hmm.
Cyborg. My
I
God.
really liked Cyborg. I'd never known much about Cyborg, and I think it was good that they went so deep into his story in this because I know they touched a little tiny bit on the Flash with his dad, but that was really it. But to go so deep into Cyborg, I thought was very, very beneficial for someone like me that didn't know all about it.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Like when Zack Snyder made a tweet out saying that the character of Cyborg was meant to be like the heart and like soul of this film.
Yeah,
I fucking believe it.
definitely. Yeah. He
And
was like the glue. He kind of brought the whole story together.
yeah, definitely. And having like seen the sort of like bits of him from like the previous film, I've got to say, fucking redemption. Because in that film he had like he had like next to nothing. His backstory was like completely brushed off and only
Mhm.
really sort of like talked about. And his only
Yeah.
really sort of like contribution or sort of memorable line was when he like destroyed the Unity and just looked up at the sky and said "Booyah." Like that was
The
it.
hell?
That was
That's
it.
awful. That's how you don't do comedy right. That's cheesy and uncomfortable, and I'm so glad they didn't keep that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like fucking redemption for both the character and the actor. Because Ray Fisher did fantastic.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think every character kind of had a good, like a solid moment, and I think that was very well done because they didn't just throw in a load of superheroes and go, well, I guess you already know who they are. Here's a story about them. It was more like they were fleshed out and they were real people and you felt for them. I think that was definitely, it adds more to his storytelling, whereas from what I've heard about the other movie, it seems a bit flat and a bit, oh, here's some action and that's it. Whereas his really it builds the world, it builds the characters, there's a lot more in it. I think it's a lot better.
Honestly, his contribution in the 2017 film was so small, people forgot he was in that film.
Oh my God,
That's how bad it was.
that's ridiculous. That's
And again,
crazy.
it just makes you think like how dare Warner Brothers like did this.
Yeah, disgusting. You bastards. I dare you. I think the fact there was so much in this film, the only way I was ever like able to keep track of my notes was to put it into sections, and I have the little headers of each section is called. You know, they had like part three, part four. I only am able to decipher what's what by the titles.
Yeah, I'm kind of sort of going that back and forth between it. I think the next chronologically thing to talk about is it's after the parademons kidnap Cyborg's dad to try and find to try and find the third mother box because they invaded Atlantis and took that down. And took down the soldiers down pretty easy. Which the gore from like the blood from like the blood clouds underwater from like when it
Yeah,
was like killing a bunch of Atlanteans. That was brutal as fuck.
that was. Ugh.
But the scene where it's Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Flash recruited by Commissioner Gordon.
Hmm. I always love it whenever Commissioner Gordon pops up. He's such an iconic character. Like he does so little, but in the comics and the cartoons, he does so much. But just to see him as a little addition in these films always makes me happy. I just like him for the nostalgia.
Yeah, and a surprisingly well done performance of the character from J.K. Simmons, who we only really sort of know for like Marvel stuff mainly.
Hmm. Yeah, I liked him. I thought it was quite nice.
Yeah. So the scene, so the scene to follow after that is when they go to it's when they go to the base in Russia and then they try to have it's the first fight with Steppenwolf that doesn't really go so well.
Hmm. Yeah. There's so many fights and so much stuff. I'm trying to remember which one was which. It's boggling my mind. Oh,
It was the
this
one where
movie.
they nearly got it was the one where they nearly got drenched by the flooding of Gotham Harbor before Aquaman came in and saved them.
Yes, this was the one in the tunnels, wasn't it?
Yeah, the one in the tunnels.
Yes. Yes, they had like was it like a Nightcrawler or whatever it was called. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I liked that one. See, my brain's been so mind fucked by this film, I can't think anymore. I'm trying to piece it together. Yeah,
What is this
that's
film? Where
why
am I?
right.
I think my favorite like moment to like come from that fight was probably It was when Flash ran on the wall, sort of like round, sort of like the corner of like the tunnel itself, and then just sort of like pointed the sword into Diana's hand.
Yeah, and it was very good. I always love to see more from Batman in terms of gadgets. 'Cause that's basically all
Yeah.
he is, apart from a big strong man. So to see like the Nightcrawler and the different machines and stuff, and also how much that Alfred actually helps him, I think is really, really good. I like it a lot. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not saying on this fight.
I love like the little interaction of when Cyborg takes over the Nightcrawler. And he's like, "It's all right, Alfred. I've got this." And he's like, "Sorry, do I know you?"
Yeah, I love how like it's not just Batman. Like he needs his team, and I think it adds a bit more humanity to him. Where he did say, "This is Alfred. I work for him." I think as a partnership, they definitely need each other, and it adds so much more humanity to him because he is this dark character where everyone else has this like connection to other people, whereas he doesn't really. And I think just his one rock in this life is Alfred. And I just think it's so sweet. And
It
he
really
helps out
is.
and everything. It's lovely. I adore Alfred. He's so cute.
So,
Especially in the films where, because coming from the shows and the comics where he is alone, because he doesn't have like Dick Grayson or like none of the Nightwings exist, none of like Jason Todd, none of the Robins exist. Well, so far because we had the little bit at the end with the Joker, but it's nice to see him have a connection with somebody because in his source material he is so fleshed out and having relations with other people. It's nice to kind of bring that back.
yeah, it definitely is. So it's after they've had the fight. They realize the third mother box is under the possession of Cyborg. It's the machine that essentially sort of brought him sort of like back to life and sort of gave him his sort of metal body after the massive car crash that killed his mum.
Yeah, that was so sad. His mom was so sweet. That whole flashback really got me. His mom
Yeah.
was adorable. That was really sad. But I do like how they kind of rounded it all off with him being like kind of created or resurrected from the mother box. I really liked that kind of link. It wasn't like a like, oh, Wonder Woman's got her own origin, everyone else got their own origin, Superman, and all that kind of stuff. His was directly linked to the story. And I think that does make him more involved, and that is kind of why he is the glue and he is the heart of the story, because he is so directly involved with the threat. I thought it was class.
Yeah, I particularly loved when he was explaining like where like the mother box like came from, because obviously the whole thing about from the Dark Side fight years ago was that they all got buried in different places. Like the Atlanteans, they decided to keep it in this underwater temple. The Amazonians, they kept it in this sort of stone temple guarded by many Amazonians. Humans were like just burying it a hole.
Just put it, just bucket in the ground and be all right.
Yeah, just keep it there. Just keep tabs on it every so often. But I really liked like the scene when he was like explaining what the mother box was about and how it was discovered in like a Nazi war camp. There was and it showed him as the contrast in and it's sort of laid back cool jacket, just sort of walking down casually down the Nazi trenches, explaining what it was. I just thought that was like really cool to see.
Because they could have gone any way they wanted with that explanation, but to put those visuals in, I think it was very, very enticing because you're like more involved with the contrast rather than him just either walking around explaining it or him directly there with the box. It was more elaborate, I think, and it was very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, the whole explanation that's given around the mother box is that it doesn't necessarily sort of bring people back to life, but it changes like the biology of whoever it touches, as opposed to like who commands the box. And that's when they get the idea to, and I'm interested to see where this goes. They get the idea to bring back Superman.
Why do they have to bring him back? Like, come on! Oh. I was loving the film the whole way up to that, and then I thought, oh, it'll be interesting to see like in what form he comes back. But him coming back was so predictable, because I don't mean the fact that he came back was predictable, I mean the way in which he came back was predictable. They had that whole fight where he had been resurrected and he was like, he kind of forgot everything. And you knew from the start watching that, like, oh, it's going to be Lois. Lois is going to come in and she's going to be the one that gives him all his memories back, and that's how it's going to remember, blah, blah, blah. So
well,
the whole
they kind of hinted that in the previous film, you know, with the whole, with the whole like flash nightmare sequence of him saying Lois Lane is the key.
But for me, that scene seems so much more important than her just being the key of, like, unlocking his memories. I think, like, the key could have been so much more interesting than, oh, she just, like, cures his amnesia, there you go, he's back. I thought it was so bland and dull. And, like, the whole fight, you were sitting there just waiting for the fight to be over because you knew that Lois was going to show up and give him his memories back. The whole fight I just thought was pointless. I was just sitting there waiting because you could tell what was going to happen.
I think the tension of that fight was not if he was going to severely injure anybody, but would they be able to calm him down within enough time before they have to get back to defending the mother box?
That was just one thing I didn't like. I did not think it was necessary at all. I thought it was it felt like a filler fight because you knew the outcome. You knew nothing bad was going to happen. I knew the answer that they needed, and it wasn't like, oh, will I figure it out? It was more, oh, I should have showed up on her own, that was it. It was just one thing in the film that kind of irritated me. Also the fact that he's flying around with no shoes on for like half the movie, that really fucked me off. Put some shoes on, please. And I don't know, I just did not like it. He's like flying around shirtless again, and I thought that's quite uncomfortable too. His lack of clothing irritated me. People walking around with no shoes on really fucks me off.
well then. I'm gonna say that I could understand like why like people wouldn't like it, and it was. I mean, for a standpoint, it is like kind of predictable considering how quickly they killed Superman in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Watching it with my sister, I still liked it. I remember I thought the scene that was really cool during the fight. It was when Flash tried to jump him, and then you see like Superman do the little side eye thing to sort of spot him out.
Yeah, that was good.
And then you see like the oh shit look on Flash's face.
Yeah, I loved the bit where it was one of the two, Aquaman was fighting him, and the Flash kind of goes to rush Superman. Superman kind of sidesteps him, and he collides with Aquaman. Oh yeah,
there was the bit afterwards, like Superman had taken off of Lois, and Aquaman's just sort of lying in the rubble, and then he just sort of like angrily points at Flash. Flash is like, "I'm so sorry."
I was really pissed off with him. I loved it. Yeah.
Only Jason Momoa could carry off that kind of pissed off look.
Totally, yeah. Oh, his eyes the whole time are gorgeous. I love them. Like, I think, obviously the superhero is going to be like big and buff and muscly, but like that's just not my thing. And then Superman looks really square the whole time and uncomfortable, so I always wish they'd put a shirt on that man. But the only thing that was nice was Jason Momoa's eyes.
I'll say that he looks a lot better than he did in the 2017 one. To bring up another problem with that, surprisingly enough, there's another problem with that. So
I think for this one, like the last one, take a shot every time we poke a hole in the 2017 movie.
Combine that with the take a shot every time we make a John Wick reference.
Yeah.
But a problem that was faced in the 2017 one was after Henry Cavill had filmed everything he needed for Snyder's version. Excuse me. He went to go and film for Mission Impossible Fallout, which as you know, like he played. His character had like a quite prominent mustache.
Yeah.
So when Joss Whedon required him to be called back on for his reshoots, Warner Brothers asked the people making Mission Impossible, they said, "Can we shave his mustache?" They were like, "No." I was like, "Okay, so what if we gave you this money to give him like a really realistic looking mustache that could replace it?" They said, "Still no." So Warner Brothers were like, "Okay, what if we CGI out the mustache?"
Oh God.
And they were like, "Yeah, go ahead with that." And the result was, it was terrible. You know deep fakes.
Yeah.
Imagine that solely on his upper lip.
I can't imagine what that looks like. I thought you were going to say they just kept the mustache, and I thought that in itself is horrible. But to go a step worse, if they actually keep the fucking mustache and try and cover it, that is hell. Oh, I could not watch that.
I'll like show you a clip like afterwards, but one clip that like really sticks out was one that wasn't in this bit, the 2017 one. It was when Superman was like grabbing like Batman by the neck, and you sort of like really sort of uncomfortably zoomed in on his like animated face. It sort of looks in his eyes and says, "Tell me, do you bleed?"
I wondered, did they just go, oh, well, his face doesn't move anyway, so we won't need to do much CGI work. We can just keep it in one place and not have to animate it because his face doesn't move anyway.
Which that's definitely a redemption like for the actor, because Paul Henry Cavill like worked out for months, and in the 2017 one, all you could look at was his weird deepfake mouth.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. I think whenever he did get resurrected, I was really, really invested in like the Flash, Aquaman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, their whole little group, their whole chemistry and everyone interacting together. But every time it cut from that little group to Superman and Lois, I just thought, oh God, these scenes are so boring. Like, they're interesting in themselves, but just compared to the kind of shenanigans and fuckery that we have from the other characters, these two just kind of moping around and looking into each other's eyes, just take me back to the other ones. I don't want to watch these two go after each other for another 10 minutes.
I mean, as a guy who loved Man of Steel, I was like more than happy to sort of like see the scenes of them together, because while I could admit, you know, from the previous discussions that we've had with the films, I feel like their relationship is kind of a little bit rushed. I still feel like it's believable enough. My sister was really touched at the scene. It was when Superman's sort of stood in his sort of red jacket, looking out across the fields, and he turns to Lois and he says, "I'll take that as a yes." And then I sort of see my sister's reaction. I was like, it's just because she's wearing the ring that you left her.
Oh, that is lovely.
And I did really feel like a heartfelt moment when he was like reunited with his mum. And they had and he had that moment where he was like hugging like Lois Lane, and his mum just sort of stood in the field against the sunset.
I feel like Lois didn't really have that much of a sad reaction to him. Like, she was kind of happy, and then she just kind of looked bored.
I mean, Lois didn't really have that much of a presence in this film at all, being honest.
Yeah,
she was just kind of there.
She's a background character to me. I didn't really care that much, but yeah, she was there to be there.
Yeah, because like in the previous film, she had like a sort of she had the purpose of a journalist, whereas in this she kind of has the sort of smaller role of someone else who's mourning the loss of Superman.
Yeah, but even to be the key and to have that like such a small role really didn't do well for her character. They could have built her up more, and just coming back to that whole thing about that one bit that annoyed me about her being the key, I just think that adds to how much it infuriated me that she could have been a lot more, and they could have done a lot more with that.
I think they try to hint towards something like that, what with the like nightmare sequences, with the whole reason being why Superman turns. I'm going to make a pun here. The reason why Superman turns to the dark side. Yes.
Have we had 2 Star Wars references already? Oh no.
I'm proud of myself for that.
Nice.
But but the whole reason as to like why he as to why he turns evil is like the loss of Lois. So I guess there's it's not an importance that's like outright stated, but it's implied.
Yeah. Like, I understand it. It just wasn't for me.
That is fair enough. I did like the Superman scenes more in this more than I assumed you would. Like, I was watching the Superman scenes and I'm thinking, Ray's not gonna like this. I just know she isn't.
Yeah.
As I guess I was sort of more looking towards the scene when Superman goes to like his ship and he's like going through all of like his all of like his different suits, and you hear like the different like narrations coming from his different dads.
Yeah, I liked that. That was a
Yeah.
very touching scene. It was also, it did give a good flashback to Man of Steel because you saw him progress into Superman in that, but now you get to see him have all that come back to him. And I think it was impactful on his character in a different way. It wasn't all that sadness, all that heartache of him, struggling with it growing up and then struggling with it with his dad. It was more of uh, a refreshing realization rather than a heartbreaking one. I thought it was a good contrast for his character, and I think it built him up a bit more for what he had to do.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of like a good contrast of like Lois Lane and his mum remind him of who he is as Clark Kent. Going back to the ship reminds him of who he is as Kal-El and Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I thought it was
not
very, very
only is it strong because he's had 1.5 pre-existing films with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, but Man of Steel is essentially where this all started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I really loved about it. And that's what really gave me like a massive smile on my face to see him in that cool-looking black suit right at the moment of his of Jonathan Kent to say "Fly, son." Have that be like the moment when he like does the takeoff. Which, if you remember, like my Man of Steel. If you remember the Man of Steel podcast, the first flight was one of my favorite scene. Was my favorite scene in that film. To see him take off in a similar fashion, rise up into space, and sort of embrace like sort of embrace the sun and the outer atmosphere of space. That's my favorite moment of the film.
Nice.
It was also awesome to hear a phenomenal score to this because in the 2017 film.
Oh no!
It wasn't necessarily done by a bad composer. It was done by so Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL. They weren't. There was a rumor that they weren't invited or were kicked off from writing the score for Justice League, and instead they brought on Danny Elfman.
Right.
And aside from like using like familiar sort of themes of like the 1970s Superman film or the 1980s Batman film, despite using those familiar themes, the soundtrack was just kind of there.
Yeah,
it's like music that you hear once, but then you never really sort of think about it afterwards.
Yeah. There's only a few scenes where it stood out to me, and I can't even remember which ones they were, but there was only a very, very small handful where I kind of clocked into it and went, oh, that sounds quite nice. But yeah, I see what you mean.
So bringing it into this one, like this is a Zack Snyder production. You need like a proper Hans Zimmer Junkie XL, full on, sort of bassy kind of it's a soundtrack, and that is definitely like what the guy wrote to this.
Yeah, for the few times I did notice it, it was very, very good. But I think maybe I was just enjoying the movie too much, and there was so much going on that I just didn't really clock into it too many times. But
that's also fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. So sorry, you were saying?
No, sorry. Just one thing that I did like about the part where I can't remember what he's doing, but going back to like last one about Batman vs Superman, when I noticed Batman's lovely cars, he gets to drive about in a Mercedes Benz in this one, and I absolutely adored it. Another absolutely gorgeous car from Batman.
Yeah, one that isn't broken. Yeah.
Because the last one was class. I can't remember what it was, but it was gorgeous, and this one just like, I'm not a big fan of sports cars, but I will say that for a Mercedes it was very, very nice. There was my car of the week. Like in the John Wick ones and the Batman ones and now this one, I seem to have a car every time, and they're just lovely.
Can't wait till we get to talking about Pixar cars.
Oh no.
It's just gonna be non-stop. So the ultimate final fight in this film,
I thought it was wonderful. I loved it.
Absolutely
phenomenal, absolutely class. That was really, really good. It really drew on everyone's strengths. Like, we actually had that really good bit with Cyborg and the whole. I think Cyborg got a good backstory and a good character development, and we didn't get as much of that from the Flash. But his little like struggle and him overcoming things and kind of embracing his power and basically turning back time and saving everybody, I think that was his balance. compared to one getting a backstory and one getting progression. I thought that was really, really nice to see. And Diana was wonderful as ever. We saw a lot more strength from her. Batman doing his thing. Everyone has such... It didn't feel like anyone was cut off. Everyone had a decent amount of focus at different times, and everyone was doing something unique, so it played to everyone's strengths. And I think this as a whole, the way it was choreographed and filmed and written, I think it flowed very, very well and didn't feel too jarring or anyone was left out, and it was just wonderfully encapsulated, I think.
Yeah, it's like every hero had their moment against the villain.
Yeah,
like Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman and Aquaman had their moments of essentially double teaming Steppenwolf with a sort of own combined with their own combined attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cyborg had when it was like. It's essentially like his robot body trying to like stay alive and going for like all different kinds of like self-defense mechanisms, as well as like trying to destroy the Unity. The Flash, as you know, like had like the moment when he turned back time.
Yeah,
Superman had like the hulking mass moment of when he just sort of beat Steppenwolf to the ground and sort of lasered his horn off.
Yeah. I really loved the bit from The Flash. It was so sweet. It was so nice to see. Because they had tried that so many times with him, like, running around trying to charge it. And there were so many things that went wrong where you just kept thinking, oh, it's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen. It's one of these things where, like, the build-up and it doesn't happen. The more build-up doesn't happen. And you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time going, oh my God, fucking do it.
Exactly.
And I think it really, really built the tension up and it added to the moment as well. And I think it was class. All around class.
Would you say more tense or just about the same or not as tense as say some of like the Avengers films climaxes?
That's a very good question. See, I think it was more tense.
Same.
Because the amount of times it kept feeling, and it actually had that little element of realism and like tension. I think it was a lot more. Because, I think it was a lot more tense.
Yeah, I feel like definitely compared to the endings of, I want to say like the most like tense like Avengers films, so that'd be Infinity War and Endgame. Compared to like their tension endings, Infinity War's tension was met with a kind of sense of, oh, maybe they'll overcome this, and the tension was the kind of surprise of the, oh shit, they didn't. Whereas Endgame was kind of like, there's no way they're going to let him snap twice. So he probably is going to lose. Whereas in this, I genuinely did feel tense for the heroes of this, specifically when like Cyborg is like trying to like, but it's like trying to break the Unity. You see the portal open and you see Darkseid literally about to emerge.
Yeah. I think in Marvel, it's more the tension of how are they going to figure out how to do this and then they execute it, whereas in DC it's more okay, they've got a plan, but it's the struggle of how they execute it, and that's where the tension lies in these films. And I think it's a lot more impactful.
Yeah, with them it's like the like, will the plan work? In most Marvel films is which hero are they going to lose, which which hardly ever happens anyway with Marvel. So
yeah, that's so sad. Jeez.
But yeah, the kill that they eventually like give to Steppenwolf, like literally, they impale him from behind, throw him through the portal, and slice his head off as he falls through it.
I love that. Whenever you see his body, you see that Diana come at his body, but you don't see her cut the head off. And then when you see the body come through the portal, at the last moment, his head just twists and rolls to the ground, and you're like, yes, she did what I thought she was going to do. And I was so happy with that moment.
And it's like really sort of like badass and terrifying that the Darkseid isn't even like phased by like Steppenwolf's death, which as again also makes you feel kind of bad for Steppenwolf. Definitely.
I liked how it wasn't a victory for one character. It seems like everyone got a final blow on him. Everyone had that, like, everyone gave something in the final fight, and I feel like it kind of got summed up with everyone getting like a last hit off on him. It didn't feel like one person was the hero. I think that sums up the whole Justice League thing. Everyone got that last blow on him. It wasn't a one-man show.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But when everything is all like said and done, they do eventually have their group shot on the top of the power plant, and it's awesome as fuck.
Yeah, they do. I loved it.
Do we want to talk about the epilogue?
This is the moment I've been waiting for. I loved the epilogue. I was sick of waiting there in that little moment of, like, after we discussed the final fight, we had a little moment of pause there, and I was like, can we just please talk about the epilogue? I love the epilogue so much. This is my
enjoyed
favorite
it.
part.
I enjoyed it, even though up until that point, the film hadn't really felt like it was 4 hours.
Yeah.
But then when it got to the epilogue, it was engaging enough for me. But it did feel a bit like Return of the King, where it kind of felt like it just kept on going a little bit.
Oh no, I loved it. This was my favorite part. It had so much from the Batman universe that is like that's my main thing that I was just so engaged. I was more happy to watch the epilogue than anything else in this
Well,
film.
do you want to take the floor with this?
Yes, I will. Mr. Wilson showing up. We had the appearance of Deathstroke. I love Deathstroke as a bad guy. He is so evil. Like, he gives no fucks at all when killing people, and I want to see that in action. Like, if you think other characters are like bad guys, he is a bad guy. Like, he is not a grotesque monster to look at, like, like Darkseid or whatever. He is just a human that is a monster, and I want to see more from him. I love the fact that he showed up. Lex Luthor escaping also, we're seeing him to be a lot more of an evil genius. Like, he escaped and he's just living up the life of luxury. Love that. The part with the Joker, I adored this so much. And I don't like Jared Leto. I can't stand the man. I think he's awful. And I'm not a big fan of his Joker. And I did not like Suicide Squad. But in this, I loved it. Mainly because he didn't look like Jared Leto. He looked like there's a series from the Batman universe called Last Night on Earth, and what he was dressed in and the kind of long hair was a reference to him in the comics of Last Night on
Oh,
Earth. I adored that. I thought it looked really, really good. And the whole speech that he gave, there was so many parts of it that I absolutely adored. Like, whenever he talked about Batman's adopted son, at first I thought, oh, he's talking about Dick Grayson, Nightwing, because he was like the most powerful Robin. And I was thinking, like, no, he's talked about what he did to him and how, like, he let him die. So it kind of makes you think that can't be right. It must be Jason Todd. And the whole thing about Jason Todd, he was one of the Red Hoods, but before he came back as Red Hood, he had died, and that's what fucked up Batman. And just to bring that back and to kind of like stab Batman through the heart with that, I thought was a really like evil move on the
it made
Joker's
Batman
part.
say fuck.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, like Jason Todd's a really good character, and I feel like that was also a little flashback to the Robin suit that we saw with the graffiti on it, because
Yeah,
that was Jason's, because they upgraded the suit after Dick Grayson left, and then when Jason Todd died, they changed the suit again, so that was his, and that kind of brought it full circle. And oh, it just had so many little bits from the Batman universe that I love, and I thought it was wonderful. And it had a good reference to the comics because it also had um the reference to the um no, the reference of his outfit was the Batman and Robin series. I got that bit wrong, sorry. But whenever he said about him and Batman being best friends, that was a reference to the Last Night on Earth, because they actually team up at that point because they're in like a post-apocalyptic world and there's
yeah.
no one else to help him, and he turns to the Joker, which is a really, really strange thing. And to see them actually working together in this brings it back to the Last Night on Earth, and just to see bits from the comics show up in the theatrical universe, I thought was very nice. But I will start ranting about how much I love Batman and the original material and Joker, so let's hear your thoughts.
I thought it was a great way to expand on the nightmare that Bruce had. Like in Batman v Superman, which I still think nightmare spelt with a K is still like the best pun ever. It's like the best pun name ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like as you said, like Joker's like initial design miles better than Suicide Squad, like miles. Like, it doesn't have to be like covered in tattoos. It doesn't have to be this sort of weird Ace Ventura kind of Joker.
I love that because the books that's from the Batman Robin series, he is that, not creepy, not tatted up, not kind of, alternative, edgy kind of thing. He is just this like grotesque kind of disgusting creature that we come to know the Joker as, and it was a lot better and that was reflected a lot better in this than Suicide Squad.
Yeah, definitely. Which, following that, the very last thing that we see in this is Bruce Wayne interact with the Martian Manhunter.
Well,
I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I liked it. As far as Justice League goes, the Martian Manhunter, I'm happy with the way the group was as it is, but I know that he was in the original group, so I think it was nice to see a character that should have been there but wasn't, and we'll see what he has to add to the group. I think instead of showing us everything at once, I think it's nice to have that little bit of, oh, what more can we see for this group? What will he bring to the group, and how will he change the dynamic and stuff? I think it's nice that they held off on that character who is meant to be in part of their group.
The twist of him being the general from the last two films, I did not see coming. Probably because I know next to nothing about DC, so I don't really know anything about Martian Manhunter. But that was like a genuinely like intriguing sort of twist, did it? But because I didn't really sort of know at first when he first like transformed like into that, having like spoken to like Lois, I just remember my sister just saying, "Who the fuck's that?"
Yeah, and it's one of those details that makes you on edge the whole time. You're constantly thinking about, who could he be again? Is he going to show up? Is he going to transform? Where is he? And it makes you engaged with it. You're constantly watching. You're not, you can't look away. I think it was really good in that part.
Yeah, I love that. Like Bruce Wayne has like a sort of like completely chilled out reaction to seeing Martian Manhunter. It's like he's already seen a bunch of other weird shit. He's just kind of like, yep, this is believable.
I hope that if they are going to stick with references to the source material, and they did talk about how Batman had, how his adopted son had died, and he talked about Harley Quinn as well.
Yeah.
And about how she had died. Those things happened in the comics. It was death in the family.
Yeah.
And if they're going to continue with that storyline, I'm not going to say what that is, but there's so much shit that happens in those comic series in Death in the Family that I'm excited to see what's going to come next.
Given the you may have like seen the post that I put out on Instagram. Given that Warner Brothers kind of in no mindset to continue like the Zack Snyder universe, it'll be interesting to see like where they sort of go with these kind of stories. Will they like start them all over again? Or something like that. You see, it's like you kind of don't want them to, but at the same time, they've made it very clear that they don't want to continue Zack Snyder's stuff.
No,
which I feel like it's just sort of digging them a bit deeper into the hole they've already dug themselves into.
Yeah, because I love seeing original source material being adapted into superhero films and stuff that I love. So to have so much packed into that little epilogue, with so many references and so much stuff that they could build on from the original material, and then to not use it at all and not develop it and not build on it, it would be so disappointing, because that stuff is what I want to see turned into theatrical releases.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a plan. There was a. I mean, if you look around, you'll see like storyboards that were drawn for Zack Snyder's second and possibly third Justice League film.
Mm-hmm. And they also scrapped. They were going to do a Batman and Deathstroke movie.
Yeah,
but they scrapped it. and I can't believe it. That would have been so good. And I feel like that's what having Lex Luthor talk to Wilson at the end. I think that's what was the build up to the Deathstroke and Batman movie, but they're not going to do it now, and I'm so disappointed. And if they do the same thing with that they did that, they might do with the whole Joker section of it, I'll be so disappointed again.
Yeah, it is very disappointed.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up entire thoughts, because I'm sure that we've essentially talked about everything major in this film to come from this. I've got a huge list of trivia.
Oh, well, let's hear it. I always love the trivia sections.
Okay, so in the original pitch for Superman coming back, Zack had given a plan for Superman to not just have a mustache, but a full-on beard and a mullet.
Oh God, no! I'll take the mullet, but not the beard. Oh no!
I mean, he had somewhat of a beard in Man of Steel.
True, but not like a fully grown, shaggy beard. You're like a fucking caveman.
Okay, another bit of trick. In the original story pictures, I think it's one of the first drafts. There was going to be a sort of mini romance between Bruce and Lois.
Oh no! Oh no! What? So Superman just died? Oh no! I'll go find someone else. Oh no!
And having listened to someone read an article about what his intention was, it was said that it was going to be how much like Lois and Mrs. Superman was what gave Bruce the idea that Superman needs to come back.
Well, wait, so she rebounds with Batman, and then he decides, oh no, she misses him too much. I'll resurrect him. That's so strange.
Well, as I mean, it's in a sense of maybe it's a relationship that they, try to build upon, but it doesn't really sort of go anywhere.
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
The Joker and Batman scenes were the only new things shot for the Snyder Cut.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they included that. I absolutely adored those scenes.
Yeah.
I was listening so intently to those scenes. I didn't think that I had focused more in the whole film than trying to hear every little bit of references that was included in that speech.
Yeah, and to add on to that, because Zack was willing to, make the Zack Snyder cut for no money, Ben Affleck and Jared Leto were perfectly willing to shoot their scenes for no money if necessary.
Oh, right. That's surprising from Jared Leto. Carry on.
There was also it was a story that I didn't hear about immediately sort of after watching the film, but I heard about it afterwards, and it was a really touching story.
Right.
It was there was a character in the film that Cyborg was following through security cameras. It was the single mother who was struggling to pay the rent. She had that scene where you see her in the security cameras being kicked out of her home. So Cyborg did the thing where he sort of followed her, hid in an alleyway, and sort of did the thing to the cash machine where it made it seem like she'd won a prize of 100 million.
Yeah, that was lovely.
Yeah, the Asian American actor C. Amanda Maud, who played the single mother, she sent a tweet out asking people who'd watched the film. It was my scene was cut out from the Joss Whedon version. Does anybody know if it's in the Snyder Cut? And she got about over 1,000 replies from people saying, "Yeah, your scenes was one of the best bits of the film."
Yeah, that's so sad. That's a lovely part of the film.
Yeah.
Oh, that just makes it worse and worse. No.
It just makes it worse and worse for Warner Brothers. But as I'm then hearing about, how that scene got re-included and how people thought it was one of the best bits of the film, for her to hear that, it's really touching.
Yeah, that's lovely. Oh my goodness.
Last bit of trivia. This is probably the last a bit more touching part of it. Is as I'm sure you saw the end of this film is meant to be a tribute to Zack's late daughter.
Yeah.
Not only is in the credits, not only in the credits do they play the song "Hallelujah" that was played at her funeral, but there's a blink and you miss it moment when it was after Bruce recruited Flash and they're driving off in the car and you see a little billboard with. It's kind of like a shout out to the charity page that was made to both raise awareness of the Snyder Cut and raise awareness of suicide prevention.
Yeah.
It was a suicide prevention billboard saying "You are not alone."
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, this film, from hearing all this stuff, keeps getting better and better, and the other ones get worse and worse. That is such a lovely touch. Oh, I love that. That's so sweet. See, that makes everything that I got excited about seem quite cold.
So everybody gets excited for the film for for their own reasons.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
The film made me so excited with the epilogue, but I feel like that excitement, I'm gonna just turn to disappointment. Oh, we shall see.
Yeah, but now that I feel like we can summarize our thoughts on this film, awesome comic book film, if a little bit jarring, because as again for 4 hours it does have a lot of content to get through, and sometimes it can feel a bit jarring jumping from like one character to this character and trying to put together. I mean, it works. It's just you just get a little bit of whiplash.
Yeah. I think in contrast to that, the way I watched it was I watched it in 2 parts. I watched the first 2.5 hours, and the last hour and a half I watched the day after. So it wasn't as jarring for me, and it wasn't as tiring to watch it. So I feel like I got a different experience. But I see what you mean, that if I had have watched the whole thing in one go, I would definitely have felt that as well. I think, yeah, if you go into it, maybe watch it in 2 goes.
Yeah. Don't do what I did and tried watching it in sort of 4 hours. Which, can I say, the idea of splitting such a long film into chapters, I think, is like a really solid idea.
Oh yeah.
Because it kind of works like, how theatre performances, they have like the first half be about maybe like 30 minutes or an hour or something, and then they give you like a 20 or 30-minute break in between to sort of stretch your legs and go to the toilet and stuff like that. I feel like that's a great idea to do specifically with films when there's people in our society who say they won't watch a 3-hour film, but they'll binge a 6-hour TV series.
Yeah, that's crazy. So what you're saying is we need intervals in movies, and we need to be shown in acts. Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
I'm just trying to think of like different like intervals that you could have in like films. But one really dark one just came into my mind. Take the scene in Endgame when Black Widow kills herself so Hawkeye can get the like Soul Stone.
Yeah.
And then right after that you cut to the intermission of like the Monty Python intermission music.
The intervals for the Spider-Man movies should just be you in that Spider-Man's costume dancing. Just that played on the big screen, just on loop the whole time. That's Spider-Man interval. That'd be class. I watched through the interval.
But yeah, comparing it again to like other DC films that I've seen, I'll definitely, given what you said about Aquaman, maybe if I watch it a few more times, I probably won't hold it as high. I probably won't hold Aquaman as high as in regard as I do now. But I'll still always think that Shazam is my favorite.
Nice. I haven't seen that, so I feel like I should now, after hearing that. I also really liked in the film that we got a little glimpse of Arkham Asylum, because it's had so many different incarnations throughout all the different material, like Suicide Squad, comics, animated series, all the different stuff, even the movies and Dark Knight trilogies. It's nice to see it reborn again in this, even for like a little tiny glimpse. It's always nice to kind of it adds to the world building and it adds to the kind of atmosphere of things. And I think even for nostalgia, as oddly as it is for a Batman fan, Arkham always kind of feels like home because that's where everything's kind of based. It's Gotham or Arkham. So it felt very nostalgic for me. So I think I like that little point as well.
Yeah, compared to because I haven't really sort of what like this is this is the first Justice League film that I've watched beginning to end. I've only really seen like sort of clips of the others. Have you seen any Justice League centric films before this?
No, not at all.
So I guess there's not really anything else to compare it to. But yeah, you say you definitely hold it in a like high regard to compared to like the other DC films that you've seen.
Oh yeah, I mean the Dark Knight trilogy is definitely still above it, but I think this would come in first place below those because Batman vs Superman it wasn't as good as this, and the Superman movies I'm not a fan. So yeah, I think it would definitely go like Superman, Batman vs Superman, then this, then Dark Knight.
Yeah. And then for you, like somewhere like way down at the bottom, you just see like your ranking of where Wonder Woman is.
Yeah, and then like maybe even below that, I think because I was engaged with Wonder Woman, but when it came to watching Aquaman again, I was so bored and so just uninterested, and I was genuinely like barely even watching it. I think I
Yeah.
would put that like below Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I mean that kind of makes sense. I mean, I'd rather watch a film that makes me frustrated rather than a film that makes me bored.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a film that makes me frustrated, I can talk shit about for years. Whereas
I'm
if
gonna
you
sit and scream at the screen.
yes, like I'm gonna sit and like talk about how like terrible this film is.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just gave me a film that's boring, like that's it. I can't really be bothered to bring in the effort to talk about it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic DC film. Everybody owes it to themselves to watch it.
Yeah, definitely watch it. It is top quality.
It's definitely like less of a DC film, more of a DC experience.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to sum it up.
Yeah.
It's a horror film.
And given that they went to the length of, restoring it in its like IMAX screen ratio, I cannot wait to hopefully sort of see this at like an IMAX event because they are sitting up because they are sitting on a lottery ticket.
Oh yeah, definitely. They have to. They absolutely have to. And I can't wait for that.
Oh, absolutely. With that said, this has been a podcast a month in the waiting, and has been very fun to record.
Yes, it has indeed.
And with that said, we'll see you next week with whenever we decide to watch. I feel like we should maybe take a break from DC.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I'd say keep an eye on the Instagram account because then you'll know what's coming next.
Yeah, keep an eye on Instagram, and seeing as this is like the second of like YouTube uploads, be sure to leave a like, and also sure to like subscribe to keep up to date with our content, as well as keeping up to date with what we release for Utter Radio.
Yeah, and Mixcloud and Spotify.
Yes, Mixcloud and Spotify. With that said, I've been Luke Crothers.
And I've been Ray Blakely.
Thank you for joining us. This has been Escaping Through the Lens.